You okay, Zach?
In one day, I find out Victor used everything I did as an officer against me, and I end up chased by my own people. Then one of my own soldiers turns out to be ASC, and I get involved in the armed robbery of a rover owned by my childhood corporation. Yeah, I'm doing okay, Nisha.
Surely the young lady would not be taking us to an imaginary city. I mean, rovers are amazing machines, but certainly they cannot transport one beyond the bounds of reality and reason. I am not keen on leaving Abundance.
Noctis is an amazing city, Scott. It's as real as Ophir, but more amazing than anything you've ever seen before.
Oh, yes, I'm sure. Full of fairies and balderdash.
Listen, Amelia, I'm sorry things went down the way they did. We didn't have a choice, though. The ASC after us and not a lot of time. Thanks for taking us wherever it is we're going.
Thanks for the thanks, but it doesn't change the fact I still want to see your asshole head on a stake at some point. Shit, look what that stupid creature did to my baby! The engine's fucked! I don't want to hear this. You didn't even leave me spare parts! You really...
An ostrich. No doubt about it, it's a wild ostrich. Look, you see the spikes on its back? Unfortunately, the poor animal died, but I'm almost sure that...
Well, according to the sky, we don't have much time before sunrise. Fortunately, we're not very far away. We better get a move on.
It's a pretty good idea, because, as I was about to tell you, these creatures are social. They rarely travel alone. We might find ourselves in the middle of a herd, and an angry ostrich can be very dangerous.
Very good. Want to guide us, Nisha? And Amelia, leave that rover alone. As you said, you won't be able to fix it. And if you stay, you'll die.
Isn't that what that bitch wanted? That I die? I hate you all.
Stop it. We never wanted you to die. We need you. I know that you love that machine, but there's no time to cry over it. Come on.
They're trying to open the roof.
You! Up there! Stop! Stop! It's Nisha! Listen to me! Stop! We'll take care of the creatures!
I'm sorry, Nisha! I'm stopping right now! But I'll only be able to open the doors for you once the area is completely secured!
They can get us access now.
If I weren't one to be wary of all corporate rejects, I might be elated. Do you feel it, Zachariah? We are about to enter a legendary city.
Outcasts. Get used to it, old pal. That's us too now.
Nisha, I'm so glad to see you. We were starting to get worried about you. The news from Ophir sounded a little chaotic. You look healthy.
Worried? About me? Give me some credit. Let me introduce you to Zachariah Mancer. He's the reason why I'm here.
Look at that. The Technomancer who saved us from the Vori. Interesting. Very interesting. Happy to see you again. Now I understand why the Prince was insistent. He'll want to see you as soon as possible.
The Prince?
Dandolo. He rules our city. If I were you, I wouldn't keep him waiting. He loses patience quickly. There's nothing like fresh news for him to be on pins and needles. But don't worry. He's a charming man. And he loves Nisha.
Very well. I'll go see him.
Happy to see you in one piece, Zachariah.
Beg? I feel like I got ripped off.
Apologies. We were forced to improvise. Playing a simpleton is a great way to avoid attention when you are a mutant. You can go see the Prince now, but come back later. There's something I would like to discuss. I will be near the sand sails.
Wait a... Your name's Andrew, isn't it? We went to the academy together. But didn't we... I overheard you talking to Master Connor after I brought him to meet you.
I guess you overheard. Very well. Come find me once you've met with the Prince. We'll talk about it. Go now. Don't keep him waiting.
You wanted to see me?
Yes. I apologize once again for having to play this role in front of you, but the situation was a difficult one, and I could not risk blowing my cover.
I understand. You're one of Dandolo's spies too?
No, I work for my people, even if Dandolo was a precious ally. I was in Ophir to plan an escape, but it was not exactly what I wanted to tell you about. I would like to offer you my services.
You're also a mercenary?
No, I am not interested in serum. And a Technomancer ally, yes. It is rare for mutants to know someone with your talents. So if you need a hand or any information, you know where to find me. And maybe I will ask for your services once in a while.
All right. What really happened with your mother? I must say I didn't understand much. That stone? The police's arrival?
My mother was helping me as much as she could to carry out my mission. She would provide me with information, sometimes hide mutants on the run before they could leave the city. She was a wonderful woman, Zach, but someone turned her in. Fiorello heard and raced to get me out with your aid. Though how I yearned to save her, to get to the slums to warn her. But I knew I could not. You, though, could. The stone was a token of recognition. She knew what it meant. If she was turned in, she had to leave as soon as possible, and if she couldn't, the drawing was made with an ink made of jellyfish venom.
But why give her that poison?
I didn't want her to die, Zach. I loved my mother, but I knew what the ASC would do to her in their jail. If they caught her, she needed a way to avoid being tortured.
When did you discover that you were a mutant?
The first symptoms of mutation appeared when I was very young. I must say that I can't really remember very well. My mother noticed them, and she taught me how to hide the marks, even though I think that I didn't know what it meant. She was hoping to keep me close to her, but as soon as the first marks appeared on my face, they spotted me out right away. I will never forget my arrest, how violent they were toward my mother. I was just a kid. I was sent to one of the farms on the outskirts of town. That's where I learned what it meant to be a mutant.
What's the Mutant Nation? You created it, right?
It is a little overblown, but I was one of its founders, among many others. Of course, other mutants were living outside the city as runaway slaves, hidden here and there, stealing whatever they could find in order to survive. A small community had settled in Noctis and benefited from the hospitality of the merchants, who allowed them to move around freely. However, we did not have any way to defend ourselves or plan a future. We were all spread out. A few of us decided to get together. We found a place, a very unique one, and we soon started doing it up, bringing in equipment and erecting houses. As for me, I especially wanted to free as many brothers and sisters as possible. So I went back to Ophir, and I realized that nobody cared about mutants, especially if they didn't look very smart. I began to help dozens of them escape. And our nation soon began to grow. There are a lot of us now, and I hope that all mutants will be able to live there someday.
What does Noctis represent for you?
It is the city of our allies. Without it, Mutant Valley would have probably never come into existence, even if some of them think the opposite. This town is welcomed and still welcomes many runaway mutants. Here they can free themselves from the servile state they were in. Noctis is somehow the freedom school for many of them. Of course, it remains a human city, and segregation is sometimes present even if it is not official. And I don't completely agree with Dandolo's decisions, but overall it is a place that I love that boasts of mixing everyone together, of bringing all philosophies into dialogue with each other, and of welcoming the hopeless.
What do you think of Amelia?
She's an interesting young and courageous woman, but Abundance brainwashed her. As long as she hasn't completely cut ties with the corporation, she will remain wary of everything, of anything foreign. I think that she has some pity for us mutants. That's more generous than what humans usually give us, but we don't need pity. We are a new people, not a gang of monsters regretting who they were. Maybe she will come to realize this. She is not stupid, and when it comes down to it, she has a thirst for freedom despite all the brainwashing she went through.
What can you tell me about Andrew?
He is a hurt man. He hides his suffering under a cynical and detached attitude. But he lost way more than his arm, even if I do not know what it is. If you could help him heal his wounds and become what he ought to become, you will discover without a doubt that he is a very giving friend. And maybe he will be less bitter.
What do you think of Nisha?
She's an unusual woman, Zack. She was locked up, tortured when she was a child. She managed to get out of the situation, and despite what she went through, she went back to Ophir under a false identity. Believe me, you have to be strong to do that. She is the best possible spy. She helps us as much as she can by providing us with vital information on the slave transfers so that we can go free them. And I know that Dandolo respects her a lot. But watch out. She is far from being the sweet and smiling young woman you met in Ophir. She is brilliant, generous, and she can also be merciless.
What do you think of Scott?
He's a great scientist, most likely a very good doctor.
Is that it?
Something bothers me about him, Zachariah. No doubt he appreciates you a lot. I learned that he went through a hard time, but I have a feeling that his sweet eccentricity is hiding something. But I don't know what, therefore I won't say anything else.
Hey,
Hey, back.
should have remembered you. Back when we were kids, the world just revolved around you.
Really? How so?
I know it nearly killed you, but you were so gifted. While the rest of us worked, Technomancy just came so easy to you. It was amazing to watch.
The fact that it was easy is what cost me so much. The high I got from manipulating so much fluid was... well, you saw the result. If I talked for 1,000 years, I couldn't even touch the tip of the regret I have.
You can't blame anyone but our professors. They should have known better. How could you? They just got sucked into watching your power like the rest of us. It was hypnotic.
Too bad all that power isn't enough to let me go back in time and change it all. But I guess what's done is done.
What should I know about the Caravansary?
It's the heart of Noctis, the home of the Merchant Prince, and the place where all the merchants' important transactions happen. That's where they decide on the trajectory of the main cargo routes throughout the planet. Historically, it's also the first place out of the corporation's reach on Mars. I like the place a lot. It's very peaceful compared to other places, and the architecture is splendid. The Merchant Prince has a taste for luxury. I could have spent 10 years there. I bet I would smile a bit more than I do now.
What can you tell me about Noctis?
It's a free enclave in a world dominated by dictatorial corporations, created by merchants in order to facilitate the exchange of goods from everywhere. It's become a place that also welcomes refugees from all walks of life. I love this city. You can find anything you want. Mercenaries, preachers, craftsmen, all kinds of merchants, princes and thieves. And don't get me started on the extensive variety of artifacts from all around the planet. It's quite mind-numbing, but it's the place where everything is possible. Far from the yoke imposed by corporations.
As a merchant, you must have traveled a lot. What amazing places have you visited?
Well, when I was a kid, I lived in Ophir, a place you probably know better than me. But with Marcello, the merchant to whom I belonged, we mostly traveled to Shadowlair. He knew a number of Technomancers, including renegades, and used to sell them equipment found by looters. It's an old Baroque city, with dirt-poor slums. As strange as it may sound, corporations' big cities all look the same in the end, beyond the few differences they flaunt.
You've known Nisha for a while, haven't you?
Not that long. I've been on the road most of the time for the last few years, and I've run into her a couple times. I've been in Noctis for about a year now. She's a wonderful woman. Courageous, driven. She's ready to risk her life for the city. Personally, even though I love Noctis, I wouldn't do it. She's generous too. But she has her own wounds, like all of us. She's full of anger sometimes. I think she has a few scores to settle. You know that she's from Ophir too?
What do you think of Amelia?
But sometimes the way she speaks would make caravan drivers blush. But she's a great girl. Brave, talented. Too bad about the way Abundance brainwashed her.
What do you think of Scott?
Did you know I met him in Ophir when I was a kid? He was my family's doctor, but I have a feeling he's gone completely crazy since then. He was already a little strange, but now he's completely nuts. That's too bad. He's a great scientist.
Do you know Phobos well?
Well, kind of. I've run into him several times, yes. He heads a wonderful fight, and I truly hope that he succeeds. The corporations have exploited and squeezed everybody way too much, mutants in particular. It's time for all this to stop. He's a great actor. I saw him play a simpleton with terrific aplomb, whereas he's one of the most intelligent men I know.
Hi, Nisha.
Hi, Zach. Everything all right?
Could you tell me more about Noctis?
It's a wonderful city when you come from Ophir like me. You can meet people from all corporations, but especially merchants, thieves, and mercenaries. All these people were born outside a caste, for the most part. They have a different vision from us of what a city should be like, and you can feel it. For them, a city is above all a place of exchange, of rest after their travels. That's where they find refuge after a hard time. That's where they make serum or lose everything. Noctis breathes way more than Ophir ever will. It is a city where all opinions have a voice. It is a far more creative and cherished city than any other corporate city. Every citizen would be ready to fight for it. Not because we order them to do it, but because it is their refuge. And without it, they wouldn't feel at home anywhere else.
What's in the nearby canyons? Does Noctis use them?
Sure. They're mostly used to navigate from the city to the rest of the world, but also serve as a defensive hardpoint. Any enemy of Noctis would be left vulnerable while going through the layout of the canyons. I've heard that some groups have hideouts there where they store treasures. That's surely a myth. On the other hand, I know that you can find colonial ruins in poor condition there.
Zachariah, you look good. Better than I. As if that was hard to accomplish.
How long have you known Amelia?
Since she was a kid. She was quite a cute child, yet so agitated. She's actually no different. She is still agitated and doesn't realize the risks she takes. Mark was more cautious. I really hope that she'll become more careful. I would be very sad if something happened to her. Sometimes I have the feeling that she thinks I'm a tiresome old man. It would be a problem. I mean, I'm not that annoying, am I?
Tell me more about your friend, Mark Reacher.
I don't really like to stir up old memories about him. His disappearance. I miss him, you know. He really was a very good friend. We met when we were young. I was researching animal mutations. But, of course, I didn't have a specimen in town. My professor introduced me to a young Mark Reacher who had a promising future. He took me hunting. It was amazing. There were so many things to discover out there. It was the first time that I went out, whereas Mark had already been exploring the canyons with his mother since his early years. The shock was enormous. I wanted to get out of the rover all the time and run after a beast or collect a plant specimen. Mark would obviously prevent me from doing so. It was funny. He was an adventurer, but he was, in the end, more reasonable than the naive scientist that I was. And it remained like that until he went missing. Alas.
Hi, Zach. How are you?
Hello, Amelia. I'm fine, thanks. Tell me more about you growing up.
What's there to say? I was a ward of the state in Abundance's centers. It was lonely and, you know, the other kids were assholes, but I gotta tell you, those times my dad returned from his missions, and I got to see him, best times of my life.
Wait, what? I thought the reason you'd been placed in a center was that your dad disappeared.
Who the hell told you that? No, I was real young when they took me away. My parents were always off on missions, and someone had to take care of me, you know? I don't even remember living with them. Honestly, I don't want to talk about it.
Sure, sorry. Yeah, of course. Besides your rovers, what else makes you happy here, Amelia?
Nature. Not the bugs or animals and stuff, but the landscapes, you know? Sunsets, mountains scraping the sky, red water trickling down the hills in the spring, gray lichen floating in the morning breeze. Back in Ophir, I used to take the rover out before sunrise just to take it all in. Always managed to put things in perspective, you know? How small we all are.
Amelia the poet philosopher. Who'd have thought it?
Why you gotta be a smartass?
Aha, I'm not. I was being... just never saw that side of you. The passion. Makes me want to take a rover out before dawn tomorrow.
Well, let's go together. I've always wanted to share it with someone.
Are you seeing anyone at the moment?
What, you mean a boyfriend? No, not right now. You applying for the position?
I mean...
Look at your face! You can't even come up with something to say. Listen, you don't look half bad, soldier. Won't take too much for me to cuddle up with you at night.
What do you think of Phobos?
I don't really know what to think of him. He must have had a horrible life. He's a mutant, and we all know how they are treated. And you know, that liberation story, that mutant nation thing and all, freaks me out a little. He's very smart, however. I sometimes even have the feeling that he can guess what we're thinking.
What do you think of Nisha?
She's stuck up. She was pretending to be a princess in Ophir. Here, she's the boss. Like, I've got a lot of experience, and you don't know anything. Pisses me off. And she seems to forget that she wouldn't have gotten out of Ophir or gone on trips without me. Silly girl.
What do you think of Andrew?
Besides the fact that he still has to fucking square it with Abundance, he isn't too bad. Street smart, and his being a smuggler gives him an edge. But he isn't into me, and I'm not into pining over a guy who doesn't bother to look at me anyway.
What do you think of Scott? You know him well.
Know him well? That's an exaggeration. He doesn't actually say much about himself. Most of the time, he's on his own planet. Before he gets back down to Mars, well, we lose radio communication. He's nice. He regularly checks in to see how I am. He used to bring me gifts when I was young, but he can't help commenting on the chances I take and all. It pisses me off. I like him, but he's not my father, I mean.
You must have traveled a lot. Could you tell me more about what you discovered?
You know, when I'm being sent out to explore, it's for prospecting. I drive around, take samples, map out the area, that kind of thing. I discovered 2 mines last year. We'll put them into service once we connect them with the shadow paths. Wow, it doesn't sound as exciting now that I think about it. But I don't care. Despite all of this, I can go almost anywhere. I see landscapes that others will never see, and sometimes I stumble across amazing places. I'm not doomed to remain under a shell of metal.
sound. Explore. Check the leading against me. Ah, and here comes the rare pearl, the diamond in the rough that my Nisha tells me about. Come, young man.
Zachariah Mancer. was a lieutenant in Abundance.
Then welcome to Noctus Labyrinthus, Zachariah Mancer, former lieutenant of Abundance. I am Dandolo, head of this fair city.
Legendary city of the merchants. Apparently less legend than I thought, or been told.
But hopefully as glorious as legends proclaim. Regardless, for all who come seeking asylum, it opens its arms to you and your companions. You are free to call it home. Like all who have come before you, you will honor our only request, that you make yourselves useful to our city. I'm sure your skills will place you in high demand. Noctis' first Technomancer. Exciting. You'll have all the help you need with Nisha and Lucky, who I believe you've met. We'll give you a room to get some rest. I hear your trip was quite eventful. There is something else. I would like to personally discuss my expectations of you. You hear? War between Abundance and Aurora's winding down. Aurora took Green Hope.
Just left Ophir a few hours ago and didn't hear anything about that.
That really surprise you? Your little censorship office probably hasn't decided what to do with the information yet. No. Don't look at me like that. You don't belong to Abundance anymore. The truce doesn't behoove us. During peace, the corporations become more suspicious of us and our business suffers. Our city could even be discovered, which would be catastrophic. In legend, it must remain.
What do you...
No, let me speak. Your welcome here comes at a price. I want you to attack an Aurora convoy. It's right up your alley.
And why would I do that?
I didn't finish. You will do it in Abundance uniforms, dissolving the truce. Do what you want with the soldiers, but let the civilians live. They need to be witnesses that will report back to Aurora.
So you keep the war going?
Precisely. And while you're at it, bring back the uniforms of the Aurora Technomancers you dispatch. I'm sure I'll find a use for them down the road. Another thing, much more trivial this time, I assure you. The rover you came in on, I'd like you to move it. Put it wherever you want, do whatever you want with it. Just make sure it's not in the way in the canyon. I just don't want Ophir to stumble over the machine and, as a result, find the road that leads here.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
Oh yes, one last thing. My spies gave me a little tidbit that might interest you. Right after your escape, the ASC arrested your Technomancer brothers. That's what you call them, right? From Ophir. Their fate's uncertain, but if I was you, I'd be worried for them. If you're worried enough to want to help them, maybe we can set up some sand sails to get you back.
And your help comes at what cost? Assuming it's not out of the kindness of your heart.
Don't be so bitter, Zachariah. Business is business, not personal. I just thought a few Technomancers on our side might be useful.
You want to attack a convoy to reignite a war? You know how many people die in those wars? How many are mutilated? Taken prisoner?
Not precisely. But I think I have a clear idea of the numbers, yeah. Every battle has its purpose, Zachariah Mancer. Abundance has fought Aurora for years for more power, out of idealism that their philosophies are more righteous than Aurora's. We don't just fight the corporations because of their damned ideals. What we do for our survival, for the survival of the misfits of Mars, the rejected, the poor, the outcasts of corporations. We fight for those who find a home with us, those I promised to protect. This mission worries you, and I get that. I do. Which is why I'm not asking you to attack your old brothers in arms, but rather just carry out the same attacks you did countless times before, under different command.
I don't know how I can move the rover. Pretty damaged.
I'm sure you can find a way to move it up here. Not sure sand sails can help, but maybe you can couple it to some ostriches. Maybe your explorer friend didn't tell you, but some corporations would start a war to own such a machine.
I'd repair it if I were you. Hell, sell it if you don't think you'll ever need it. I'll be honest, though. Rovers offer freedom no other transportation does. Word is, they can even reach the North and South Poles. Just something to think about.
How'd you find out about my brothers so quickly?
Well, besides the fact that your accident and eventful arrival slowed you down, my messenger's sand sails make up in speed what they lack in protection. And of course, the arrests of Abundance's most powerful strike forces were worthy of dispatching agents to keep an eye on the situation. You haven't even given a thought to how this disrupts the current balance of forces, have you?
You know why they were arrested?
The official statement is that they were suspected of treason. Victor's pretext, I'm sure. He's a man who hates anything not under his control. Was probably planning this for quite a while. He didn't get what he wanted going at it indirectly, so he just took it head on. Whatever hope you have for their lives, I'd start to come to terms. They're probably being tortured for their secrets as we speak. And as soon as they give them up, they'll be executed. If you care about them...
What can you tell me about the Caravansary neighborhood?
It's the pulse of Noctis. The very first place built by traveling merchants. Built in the recesses of the labyrinth so they'd have a place to meet, trade, rest, drop their loads. Then the city exploded as it opened itself up to all those who were homeless elsewhere. And the simple building it once was became the beautiful palace it is today. It's still the place for merchants to gather, trade, swap tips and news, and get some rest. It's also become the home for the merchant prince, the elected chief of all traveling merchants.
What's the Gate neighborhood?
It's the neighborhood around the city's current entrance. Much less affluent than the heart of the city, and it keeps growing and getting better. Usually the first place newcomers tend to plant their roots. They'll go and dig or build their house where they can find space. A damn lively area, eclectic, and sometimes those differences, combined with the proximity of the canyon, can make it a bit dangerous. But we do our best to keep it safe. Try to find ways to bring the different communities together, rather than allow their division to fester.
Why'd you pick the canyons to build your city?
Who knows? That decision was made by people a century ago. But if you're asking my opinion, the canyons serve a dual purpose, providing transit and partial shade from the sun. I don't know if you know, but they connect us all over, even to the big cities, and they serve as natural protection, making it hard to find us without a guide. They're our shadow paths, our roof and our ramparts, all thanks to nature.
On my way in, I saw a large area with a bunch of sailing machines.
Ah yes, the loading zone, where we store, empty, and fix our vehicles when they need it. All the merchandise that comes in gets sorted there too, before getting redirected to the various city neighborhoods. It's a rather key area for the city. Without the sand sails, we'd have a damn difficult time getting our merch out to all the cities. Of course, we can't use them everywhere, and often use other means of transport, like the Shadow Path, or ostriches. But those machines, as you call them, do the bulk of the heavy lifting. It's our fleet, and we're damn proud of it too.